I wasn't looking for the truth. It lit up on the screen by itself. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No thunder, no music swelling in the background. Just me, sitting on the couch, phone in my hand, the TV murmuring something I wasn't really watching. The notification didn't even make a sound. Your DNA results are ready. I remember thinking, oh right, that thing. I had almost forgotten about it. I didn't rush. I finished my tea. Let the episode keep playing. I tapped the notification the same way you open a weather alert or a delivery update, without expectation. And within seconds, something felt off. Not in a loud, obvious way. More like a quiet mental stutter. Percentages that didn't line up with the family stories I'd heard my whole life. Regions I didn't recognize. Numbers that technically made sense, but emotionally didn't. Then I scrolled. Then I clicked. And that's when I noticed what wasn't there. The close family section should have been simple, automatic, obvious. Instead, it was empty. No name where there should have been one. No match that should have been impossible to miss. I stared at the screen longer than I want to admit, waiting for it to populate, waiting for the app to catch up, waiting for reality to correct itself. My first reaction wasn't fear, it was annoyance. I told myself the app was broken. Technology fails all the time. I refreshed, logged out, logged back in, opened it on my laptop. Same result. That's when my stomach dropped. Not panic. Panic is loud. This was quiet. Heavy. Like the moment before an elevator starts falling. Up until that exact second, I would have described my life as aggressively normal. I had a steady job, predictable routines, parents who showed up when they were supposed to, a childhood that didn't feel remarkable in either direction. No big trauma. No long-held suspicions. No identity questions. I knew who I was, or at least I thought I did. The DNA test itself was never supposed to matter. It was a joke, a gift from friends. We laughed about it, talked about discovering some exotic ancestry or a long-lost connection to somewhere interesting. I spit in the tube, mailed it back, forgot about it almost immediately. The waiting period passed without a single Google search or late-night theory spiral. I didn't care enough to be curious, which is probably why the results hit the way they did. I started clicking through profiles, people I'd never heard of who shared an unsettling amount of DNA with me. Different last names, different cities, entire branches of family trees that didn't intersect with mine at all. Some of them had photos, faces that almost looked familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. Not recognition, resemblance. I kept telling myself it had to be a mistake. These tests aren't perfect. Everyone knows that. I searched phrases like DNA test missing parent match and ancestry test error close family at 2 a.m, sitting alone in the dark like I was trying to lawyer my way out of a verdict. But every explanation led to the same quiet conclusion. This wasn't an error. That night, I barely slept. Not because I was imagining dramatic confrontations or worst-case scenarios, but because my brain wouldn't stop replaying ordinary memories and subtly rearranging them. Comments that once felt casual now felt deliberate. Jokes that landed differently in hindsight. Moments that suddenly had negative space around them. I remembered relatives who never quite looked like me. Old photos where I always seemed slightly out of place. Stories about my birth that were always short, always vague. Nothing changed, except everything. For days, I told no one. I went to work, answered emails, made small talk. I even had dinner with my parents and watched them argue about the same pointless things they always argued about. But I watched them differently. I studied faces I'd known my whole life, looking for familiarity I could no longer trust, searching for proof or reassurance, or maybe an explanation that didn't require words. Every conversation felt heavier. like I was carrying a secret I never asked for, but somehow became responsible for protecting. I grew distant without meaning to. Shorter replies, less eye contact, long pauses where there hadn't been any before. I could tell they noticed. Eventually, I couldn't carry it alone anymore. The conversation wasn't dramatic. No yelling, no tears at first. Just an awkward silence after I asked a question I'd rehearsed in my head dozens of times. Is there anything you've never told me about my birth? They didn't answer right away. That pause, that fraction of a second where they looked at each other, told me more than any confession could have. What followed came in fragments. Not a clean explanation, not a clear timeline, just partial truths wrapped in justification. We were going to tell you someday. It was complicated back then. We thought it was better this way. The truth, when it finally landed, didn't feel like closure. It was infidelity, a choice made decades ago, a decision to bury the consequences and hope they'd stay buried. And for a long time, that gamble worked, until a plastic tube and an app dug it back up. After that, I started revisiting my childhood with a different lens. Memories that once felt warm now felt curated. Moments that used to feel spontaneous now felt rehearsed. I wondered how many people had known, how many conversations happened without me, how many times the truth was actively avoided in my presence. The hardest part wasn't learning where I came from. It was realizing how many people had decided I didn't deserve the truth. Our relationship didn't explode. It eroded. Slowly. Quietly. In ways that are harder to explain and impossible to fully repair. Trust didn't shatter. It thinned. Every interaction became layered. Every smile carried history it didn't used to have. We still talk. We still show up for birthdays and holidays. We still pretend that normalcy is intact. But there's a version of closeness we'll never get back. The DNA test didn't destroy my family in one dramatic moment. It changed it permanently. I didn't lose my parents that day. I lost the version of myself who believed that the most important parts of my life had been honest. And once that belief is gone, there's no update, no refresh, no way to download it again.